The email from my sister Diane arrived with its usual mix of command and fake sweetness. Mom's 70th birthday celebration at Sapphire Cove Resort. Everyone's confirmed. Don't be the only one missing. Again, I stared at my phone, the familiar knot forming in my stomach. 3 years had passed since I'd seen my family all together, and the last gathering had ended with my brother-in-law Marcus telling me I was just jealous of their success while I wasted my life. The fact that I'd missed my niece's graduation because I was finalizing the biggest business deal of my career didn't matter to them. In their eyes, I was still little Ellie who couldn't commit to anything. What Diane didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the business deal had been the purchase of Sapphire Cove Resort Group. After years of working my way up from hotel management to hospitality consulting, I'd partnered with investors to acquire the luxury resort chain. I kept a low profile professionally, using my full name, Eleanor Mitchell, for business while family still called me Ellie. The acquisition had been covered in industry publications, but my family never paid attention to my career. I took a deep breath and typed my response, "I'll be there." No explanation, no qualification. Let them assume what they wanted. Diane's reply came within minutes. "Great. We've booked the presidential villa for the family. 7 bedrooms total between the main house and guest house. Mom and Dad, us, Janie and her crew, and Ben and Sophie. You can share with Aunt Patricia, since you're both single. I've already added you to our group chat with all the details." I felt a cold smile form on my lips. The presidential villa at Sapphire Cove was the premier accommodation at the flagship property. I had personally overseen its renovation last year, and I knew for a fact it had 8 bedrooms, not 7. The group chat exploded with messages over the next few days. My brother Ben, the golden child doctor, talked about flying in from Boston. My other sister Janie, always the organizer, was coordinating a surprise party for Mom. Everyone discussed transportation, activities, and who would bring what gifts. No one addressed me directly, though I was clearly included in the messages. 2 days before the trip, Janie sent a message. "Final room assignments. Mom and Dad in the master, Diane and Marcus in the blue suite, Ben and Sophie in the garden room, our family in the 3 rooms of the guest house, Aunt Patricia in the small blue room. Can't wait to see everyone." I noticed immediately, no room assignment for me. I typed, "Where am I staying?" 3 hours passed before Diane responded. "Oh, I thought I mentioned. The presidential villa is actually fully booked except for the rooms we reserved. They don't have any additional rooms we can add. Maybe you can book something else at the resort? Or there's a nice motel about 15 minutes away. Sorry for the confusion." I knew the presidential villa was fully reserved for my family. There was no confusion. They had deliberately excluded me, knowing I would either have to scramble for alternative accommodations or back out entirely. Either way, I wouldn't be fully part of the celebration. After 39 years, I was still an afterthought. I didn't respond to the message. Instead, I called Xavier, the general manager at Sapphire Cove. "Ms. Mitchell, always a pleasure. What can I do for you?" "Xavier, I'll be arriving tomorrow for a family gathering. We'll be in the presidential villa." "Yes, I see the reservation. The Mitchell family for 7 nights. Did you need something added to the arrangements?" "Actually, I'd like to make some changes. First, please move Ms. Patricia Mitchell to the garden cottage. It's more comfortable for someone her age, and I'll cover any difference in cost." "Of course, Ms. Mitchell." "Second, prepare the master bedroom in the presidential villa for my use. But the reservation indicates that's for Robert and Judith Mitchell." "I'm aware. Please make the change discreetly. Place my parents in the blue suite instead. Don't mention this change to the arriving guests. I'll handle any questions when I get there." "As you wish, Ms. Mitchell. Will there be anything else?" "Yes. I'd like to review the staff schedule for the week. I want to know exactly who will be working with my family." After finalizing the details, I packed methodically, selecting outfits that were understated but expensive. Clothes that wouldn't immediately signal success, but wouldn't allow them to dismiss me either. I tucked my company credit card, the one with Eleanor Mitchell, CEO, Sapphire Cove Resort Group, embossed on it, into my wallet. I wasn't planning a dramatic revelation, but I was done being the family afterthought. The 5-hour drive to the coastal resort gave me time to reconsider. Maybe I was being petty. Maybe I should just book a room elsewhere and avoid the drama. But something had broken when I read that message thread. Seeing them so casually erase me from the plans while pretending it was a simple oversight. This pattern had repeated my entire life. Ellie can handle it. Ellie won't mind. Ellie doesn't need to be included. I arrived at sunset, the massive wrought iron gates of Sapphire Cove swinging open automatically as my car approached. The winding drive through manicured tropical gardens led to the main building, a sprawling Spanish colonial structure with red tile roofs and whitewashed walls. Fountains splashed in the courtyard, and staff in crisp white uniforms greeted arriving guests. I pulled up to the VIP entrance, where Xavier waited alongside the valet team. "Ms. Mitchell, welcome home," he said warmly as a valet opened my car door. "Thank you, Xavier. Any updates I should know about?" "Your family began arriving this afternoon. Your parents, your sister Diane and her husband, and your Aunt Patricia are already settled in the presidential villa. We've moved Ms. Patricia's belongings to the garden cottage as requested, and she seemed quite pleased with the arrangement. Your suite is prepared exactly as you like it, and the staff, all briefed according to your instructions. No one will reveal your position unless you indicate otherwise." "Perfect. And my parents?" "We explained that there had been a complimentary upgrade to their accommodations when they checked in. They didn't question it." "Excellent. I'll head up now." The presidential villa sat on its own promontory overlooking the ocean, connected to the main resort by a private drive. As I approached, I could see lights blazing and figures moving behind the floor-to-ceiling windows. My stomach tightened, but I kept driving. The villa's massive front door opened as I parked, and my mother stepped out, elegant as always in linen pants and a silk blouse, her silver hair perfectly styled. "Ellie, you made it." She hurried down the steps to embrace me, her familiar perfume enveloping me. For a moment, I was just a daughter coming home. "Hi, Mom. Happy early birthday. I'm so glad you're here. Everyone's inside. We're having drinks on the terrace. But where's your luggage? Diane mentioned you might be staying somewhere else." The warmth in my chest cooled. "There seems to have been a misunderstanding. I'm staying here." "Oh," but Diane said, "Mom, who is it?" My father appeared in the doorway, tall and distinguished with his white hair and perpetual tan. "It's Ellie, Robert. Come say hello." My father descended the stairs with a broad smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "There's my girl. Thought you might have backed out at the last minute." I said I'd be here, Dad. I accepted his brief hug. "Well, you've been known to change your mind about family events." His smile didn't waver, but the criticism landed precisely where he'd aimed it. "Not this time." I lifted my overnight bag. "Shall we go in?" "Allie, honey," my mother began hesitantly, "about the sleeping arrangements." "All taken care of," I said firmly, heading up the steps. "I've already checked in." The grand foyer of the presidential villa opened to a sweeping view of the ocean through walls of glass. The great room beyond featured soaring ceilings, custom artwork, and designer furniture in shades of blue and cream. To the left, a massive dining area could seat 20. To the right, a professional kitchen where staff prepared whatever guests desired. Diane spotted me first. She was holding court on the terrace, wine glass in hand, surrounded by her husband Marcus, our brother Ben and his wife Sophie, and Aunt Patricia. Only Janie and her family were missing, probably arriving tomorrow. "Ellie." Diane's voice carried across the room. "You made it after all. Did Mom explain about the rooms? Such a shame they couldn't accommodate one more." Did you find somewhere to stay? Every head turned toward me, expressions ranging from surprise to mild discomfort to outright satisfaction in Diane's case. Actually, I said, setting down my bag, I'll be staying here. Diane's smile tightened. Oh, honey, I wish that were possible, but we're absolutely at capacity. Every bedroom is assigned. Xavier chose that precise moment to appear from the hallway leading to the bedroom wing. Ms. Mitchell, your suite is ready. I've had your luggage delivered as requested. Diane's eyes narrowed. There must be some mistake. We don't have an extra room. Xavier looked at me, and I gave him a slight nod. No mistake, Mrs. Henderson. Ms. Mitchell will be in the master suite. A heavy silence fell. My mother was the first to speak. But that's our room. We've already unpacked. Actually, Mom, I said gently, there's been a change. You and Dad have been moved to the blue suite. I believe your things have already been transferred. You can't just move people's belongings without permission, Marcus interjected, always quick to assert himself. What kind of establishment is this? Xavier remained professional. I apologize for any confusion. The change was authorized by management. Well, I'd like to speak to management right now, Marcus demanded. This is unacceptable. You are, I said quietly. I am what? Marcus snapped. Speaking to management. I reached into my bag and removed my business card, handing it to him. Eleanor Mitchell, CEO, Sapphire Cove Resort Group. I own this place. The shock that rippled through the room was almost palpable. Diane's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Ben's eyebrows shot up. My father's mouth opened and closed without sound. You own the resort. My mother finally managed. Yes, for about 3 years now. That's why I missed Lily's graduation, I said, glancing at Diane. I was finalizing the acquisition. Why didn't you tell us? Ben asked. When would I have done that? No one ever asks about my work. I kept my voice neutral, stating facts rather than accusations. And when I do mention accomplishments, they tend to get dismissed. Aunt Patricia, always my favorite relative, broke the tension with a laugh. Well, I for one am delighted. My new cottage is absolutely charming, Ellie. Or should I call you Ms. CEO now? I smiled gratefully at her. Just Ellie is fine, Aunt Pat. Wait, Diane interjected, her voice tight. So, you knew we were coming here? You knew all along. I knew the moment you made the reservation, though I noticed you conveniently forgot to book a room for me. That wasn't, Diane began, but Marcus cut her off. The resort was fully booked. We couldn't get another room. The presidential villa has 8 bedrooms, not 7, I replied calmly. And as it happens, I have access to the reservation system. You specifically requested 7 rooms, not 8 when you called 2 months ago. Color rose in Diane's cheeks. You're making a scene out of nothing. It was an honest mistake. Like when you forgot to tell me about Dad's retirement party until the day before, knowing I was in Singapore for work. Or when you scheduled Mom's surprise 65th birthday dinner during my final business school exams after I'd told you the dates months in advance. I shook my head. Too many honest mistakes, Diane. An uncomfortable silence fell. My father cleared his throat. Well, I think we're all a bit tired from traveling. Why don't we table this discussion and enjoy our drinks? We're here to celebrate your mother's birthday, after all. It was so typical. Brush aside the conflict, pretend everything was fine. But this time, I wasn't going to let it slide so easily. You're right, Dad. We are here to celebrate Mom. And I've arranged for a special dinner tomorrow night at the Sea Glass restaurant. The executive chef has prepared a custom menu. I turned to my mother. I hope that's okay with you, Mom. I know how much you love seafood. My mother looked torn between lingering shock and pleasure. That sounds lovely, Ellie. Thank you. I picked up my bag. I think I'll freshen up before dinner. Xavier, could you show me to my suite? Of course, Ms. Mitchell. As I followed Xavier toward the bedroom wing, I could feel every eye on my back. For once, I had disrupted the family dynamic, and I wasn't entirely sure what would happen next. But one thing was certain. This was going to be a birthday celebration none of us would forget. In my suite, the most luxurious in the villa, with a private terrace overlooking the ocean, I sat on the edge of the bed and finally allowed myself to tremble. The confrontation had gone more smoothly than I had feared, but had taken an emotional toll nonetheless. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. "You've been holding out on us, sis. We need to talk." I didn't reply. Instead, I stepped onto the terrace, watching the moonlight shimmer across the water. The warm, tropical breeze carried the scent of plumeria and salt air. This place had been my sanctuary, my proudest achievement. Now it had become the stage for a family drama decades in the making. Rapid knocking at my door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find my mother, looking flustered. "Ellie, I don't understand what's happening. You own this entire resort? How is that possible? You never said anything." I gestured for her to enter and closed the door behind her. "I worked my way up, Mom. Started in hotel management after college, moved into consulting, specialized in luxury properties. When the opportunity to acquire Sapphire Cove came up, I put together an investment group. I'm the majority owner and CEO. But this must be worth millions." "It is." She sank onto a chair. "Why keep it secret from us?" I sat across from her. It wasn't exactly a secret. I use my full name professionally. Anyone who Googled Eleanor Mitchell Sapphire Cove would have found dozens of articles. But none of you ever showed enough interest in my career to look. Hurt flashed across her face. "That's not fair, Ellie. We always supported you." "Did you?" "When I got my MBA, Dad asked why I was wasting time on more school instead of settling down. When I made director at my consulting firm, Diane changed the subject to her kitchen renovation. When I mentioned I was working on a major acquisition, Ben said I shouldn't get my hopes up because those deals often fall through. We didn't mean to dismiss your accomplishments. Maybe not intentionally, but you did consistently. And then you're surprised when I stop sharing." She was quiet for a long moment. "And the room situation?" "That was deliberate, Mom. Diane didn't forget to book a room for me. She chose not to." "I'm sure that's not." "I have access to all the communications with the resort, Mom. She specifically requested 7 rooms, not 8. She knew exactly what she was doing." My mother pressed her lips together. "Your sister can be thoughtless sometimes, but she's under a lot of pressure with the kids and Marcus's business problems. Always the excuses, always the justifications. Mom, I love you, but I'm not having this conversation again. Everyone in this family has pressures and problems. Only some of us are allowed to use them as excuses for treating others poorly." She stood, smoothing her pants with nervous hands. "I should get back. Your father will be wondering where I am." "Mom," I said as she reached the door, "I'm glad you're here. I really did arrange everything at the Sea Glass for you. The chef has recreated that seafood paella you loved in Barcelona." Her expression softened. "You remembered that? It was 10 years ago." Of course I remembered. Just because I'm not always present doesn't mean I don't pay attention. After she left, I changed for dinner, choosing a simple black dress that I paired with a subtle diamond pendant. Understated, but unmistakably expensive. When I returned to the great room, everyone was trying very hard to act normal, but the tension was palpable. Dinner was served on the main terrace, the table beautifully set with candles and fresh flowers. The resort's chef had prepared a selection of local specialties: grilled mahi-mahi, coconut shrimp, fresh tropical salads, and homemade bread still warm from the oven. Wine flowed freely, helping to ease the strained atmosphere. Conversation remained superficial, Ben's medical practice, Sophie's charity work, Aunt Patricia's recent cruise to Alaska. No one mentioned my revelation or the room situation directly, though Diane shot me occasional glances that ranged from questioning to resentful. As dessert was being served, a spectacular flaming pineapple creation, my father finally addressed me directly. "So, Ellie, how long have you been planning this little surprise?" Every head turned toward us. "I wasn't planning any surprise, Dad. I just came for Mom's birthday as invited. But you must have known we'd be staying at your property." "Of course. That was clear from Diane's original email. And you didn't think to mention it? To offer any family discount or special arrangements?" I set down my dessert fork carefully. "I did make special arrangements. The presidential villa is normally $15,000 per night. Your entire stay has been comped." Ben whistled softly. Sophie's eyes widened. "That's very generous, Ellie," my mother said quickly. My father wasn't so easily placated. Still, a heads-up would have been appropriate. We could have looked foolish, not knowing our own daughter owned the place. Before I could respond, Xavier appeared at my elbow. "Excuse me, Ms. Mitchell. There's a situation requiring your attention." I nodded and stood. "If you'll excuse me." In the villa's private office, Xavier briefed me on a minor issue with a VIP guest in another part of the resort. I handled it quickly, but took a few extra minutes to collect myself before returning to the family dinner. Through the office window, I could see them all still seated at the table, now in animated discussion. About me, no doubt. As I approached the terrace, I heard Marcus's distinct voice, obviously hiding it because she's embarrassed about how she got the money. No one goes from middle management to owning a resort chain overnight without some kind of shady dealing. I froze just outside the door. "Or a rich boyfriend," Diane added. "Remember that older man she was dating a few years ago? The investment banker." "That's enough," my mother said sharply. "Ellie has always been smart with finances and worked incredibly hard. I won't have you implying otherwise." "Come on, Mom," Ben chimed in. "Even you have to admit this is weird. Who hides this kind of success from their family unless there's something they don't want examined too closely?" "Maybe." Aunt Patricia's voice cut through. She hit it because she knew exactly how you'd all react. With suspicion and resentment instead of pride. A heavy silence followed. "I'm just saying," Marcus continued, his voice lower. "Nobody builds this kind of wealth ethically. Not anymore." That was when I decided to make my presence known. "Actually, Marcus," I said, stepping onto the terrace, some people do. Through education, strategic risk-taking, 70-hour work weeks, and knowing the right time to leverage assets. They all turned, expressions ranging from startled to guilty. Only Aunt Patricia met my eyes directly, giving me a supportive nod. "Ellie, we were just," Diane began, "speculating about how I acquired my company." "Yes, I heard." I remained standing, looking at each of them in turn. For the record, I built my career legitimately. I earned an MBA from Wharton while working full-time. I saved aggressively. I developed expertise in turning around struggling luxury properties, which made me valuable to investors. When Sapphire Cove came on the market, I already had relationships with people who trusted my business judgment enough to back me. "We didn't mean," Ben started. "Yes, you did. You meant exactly what you said. And it's revealing that your first assumption wasn't that I succeeded through ability, but through something underhanded or by attaching myself to a man." My father cleared his throat. "Now, Ellie, no one's attacking you. We're just surprised, that's all. You can't blame us for having questions when you've kept something this significant from your family. I kept it from you because this is exactly how you've always responded to my achievements. With skepticism, dismissal, or by changing the subject to someone else's accomplishments. I stopped sharing because you stopped listening." I took a breath, trying to steady my voice. "And then you wonder why I miss family events or seem distant." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. The staff hovered uncertainly near the dessert cart. Perhaps we should continue this discussion another time, my mother suggested. It's getting late, and Janie and her family will be arriving early tomorrow. It was the same pattern. Avoid the difficult conversation, pretend everything was fine, carry on with the planned activities. You're right, Mom, I said finally. Tomorrow's another day. I have some work to finish, so I'll say good night. I retreated to my suite, emotional exhaustion washing over me as I closed the door. My phone buzzed immediately, a text from Aunt Patricia. You were magnificent. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. Breakfast tomorrow. Just us. I smiled and replied, yes, please. 8 a.m. in the garden cottage. As I prepared for bed, I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe I should have stayed at a different hotel, avoided the confrontation entirely. But hiding had never served me well. At least now everything was out in the open. I stepped onto the terrace one last time, listening to the waves crash against the cliffs below. Somehow, I knew tomorrow would be even more challenging, especially when Janie arrived with her picture-perfect family, unaware of the drama that had already unfolded. But for the first time in years, I wasn't dreading a family gathering. I had finally claimed my place on my terms, and in the presidential villa, at least that place was the master suite. Morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my suite, the ocean beyond sparkling like scattered diamonds. For a moment, I simply lay there, appreciating the peaceful beginning to what would likely be a tumultuous day. My phone showed several missed calls, 2 from Diane, 1 from Ben, and a text from Janie announcing they'd arrived late last night and were looking forward to seeing everyone at breakfast. I dressed carefully in white linen pants and a blue silk blouse, subtle gold jewelry completing the look. Professional but relaxed, the image I wanted to project. Before leaving to meet Aunt Patricia, I checked my work emails and made a quick call to my assistant about a pending contract negotiation. No matter what family drama unfolded, I still had a business to run. The garden cottage sat nestled among hibiscus and bird of paradise flowers, a charming standalone building with its own small pool and private garden. Aunt Patricia opened the door before I could knock, impeccably dressed as always despite being 75. There she is, the woman of the hour, she said, embracing me warmly. Come in, I've ordered us a feast. The cottage's sunroom had been set for breakfast, with fresh fruit, pastries, omelets, and a carafe of coffee waiting. Through the windows, I could see a family of cardinals flitting among the tropical flowers. This is wonderful, Aunt Pat. Thank you for suggesting it. I thought you might need a quiet moment before facing the Inquisition. She poured coffee into delicate china cups. They're all in quite a state, you know. I heard Diane and Marcus arguing until well past midnight. Something about lost investment opportunities and family loyalty. I smiled despite myself. I can imagine. How are you finding the cottage? Divine. Much better than sharing that tiny blue room with you, though the company would have been pleasant. She fixed me with a shrewd look. Now tell me everything. The real story, not the sanitized version you gave last night. For the next hour, over probably the best breakfast I'd had in months, I told my aunt the unvarnished truth about building my career while my family consistently underestimated me, about the loneliness of success without anyone to share it with, about the hurt of being an afterthought in family plans year after year. I'm not surprised you've done so well, Aunt Patricia said when I finished. You were always different from the others, more thoughtful, more determined. Your father never knew what to do with that. He understands Ben's ambition because medicine is a prestige profession, but business? In his generation, that wasn't where smart women made their mark. Maybe, but it's been 20 years since college. They've had time to adjust their perceptions. People get locked into the roles they've assigned each other, especially in families. She spread jam on a croissant with meticulous care. What are you hoping will come from this revelation? An apology? Recognition? I considered the question seriously. I don't know exactly. Respect, maybe. Not for the money or the title, but for the work it represents. Or maybe just an acknowledgement that they've overlooked me. And if they can't give you that, then at least I'll have stopped participating in my own erasure. She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Good for you. Now what's the plan for today? Besides watching Diane turn progressively more shades of purple. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in days. Mom's birthday dinner at the Sea Glass tonight. Before that, I thought I'd offer everyone the VIP resort experience. Spa treatments, yacht excursion, golf. Kill them with kindness while also showing them exactly what I've built. Perfect. Aunt Patricia smiled wickedly. I'll take the spa, please. These old bones could use some pampering. When we finally made our way to the presidential villa, we found the family gathered in the great room. Janie rushed to hug me, her boundless energy unchanged since childhood. Ellie, it's been ages. You look amazing. Janie was the peacemaker of the family, always smiling, always trying to smooth over conflicts. Behind her, her husband Tom gave me a friendly wave, while the three teenagers seemed more interested in their phones than family greetings. Hi, Janie. Good to see you. I returned her hug, genuinely glad to see her. While Janie sometimes participated in excluding me, it never seemed malicious with her, more that she followed Diane's lead without questioning. So, she said, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper, is it true? You own this whole place? The kids are telling me you're secretly a millionaire or something. It's a bit more complicated than that, but essentially, yes. Her eyes widened with genuine delight. That is the coolest thing ever. Why didn't you tell us? We could have been visiting you here for years. Before I could respond, Diane approached, her expression carefully controlled. Good morning, Ellie. We missed you at breakfast. I had an early meeting with Aunt Patricia, I replied pleasantly. How did everyone sleep? Fine, she said shortly, though Ben and Sophie had issues with their air conditioning. I'll have maintenance check it right away. I took out my phone and sent a quick text to Xavier. So efficient, Diane remarked, a hint of sarcasm in her voice. The perfect hostess. I ignored the barb. I've arranged some activities for everyone today, before Mom's birthday dinner tonight. There's a yacht excursion along the coast, golf at our championship course, or spa treatments. Whatever appeals to you. All complimentary, of course. How generous, Marcus said, joining the conversation. He'd clearly been waiting for an opening. Though I suppose it doesn't cost you anything when you own the place. Actually, Marcus, it costs exactly the same as it would any other guest. The difference is I'm happy to cover it for my family. My father had been quiet since my arrival, but now he spoke up. Ellie, I think we need to clear the air about last night. All conversation in the room stopped. Even the teenagers looked up from their phones. Dad, maybe this isn't the time, Janie began nervously. No, it needs to be said. He straightened his shoulders. Ellie, we owe you an apology. The comments last night about how you acquired your business were out of line. I hadn't expected this. Thank you, Dad. That said, he continued, I think you owe us an explanation about why you kept this from us for so long. Family shouldn't have secrets of this magnitude. And there it was, the qualified apology followed immediately by shifting the blame back to me. Some things never changed. I didn't keep secrets, Dad. I stopped sharing because no one seemed interested. There's a difference. That's not entirely fair, Ben interjected. We ask about your work. Do you? When was the last time you asked me anything specific about my career? Not how's work. An actual question about what I do, my challenges, my accomplishments. Ben opened his mouth, then closed it again, unable to come up with an example. Look, I said, addressing everyone. I didn't come here to rehash old grievances or make anyone feel bad. I came to celebrate Mom's birthday. So let's focus on that. What activities would everyone like to do today? The tension eased slightly as people began discussing options. Aunt Patricia and my mother opted for the spa, along with Sophie and Janie. My father, Ben, and Marcus chose golf, while the teenagers unanimously voted for the yacht trip, which would include snorkeling and water sports. What about you, Ellie? My mother asked. Which will you join? I'll be working for part of the day, I replied, but I might meet the yacht later if time permits. Always working, Diane commented. Some things never change. I met her gaze directly. Running a resort group requires attention, especially when I'm on property. But I've cleared my schedule for Mom's dinner tonight. Well, I think it's all wonderful, Janie said brightly, ever the peacemaker. And the villa is just gorgeous, Ellie. You must be so proud. Thank you, Janie. I am. As everyone dispersed to prepare for their chosen activities, Xavier approached with a resort tablet in hand. Ms. Mitchell, everything is arranged as requested. The yacht will depart at 11. Golf tea times are confirmed for 10:30, and the spa is expecting the ladies at 10. Chef Marcel has finalized the menu for tonight's dinner and would like your approval when convenient. Thank you, Xavier. I'll review it shortly. I noticed Diane lingering within earshot, watching our interaction with barely concealed curiosity. After Xavier left, she approached. So this is really your show, isn't it? You actually run this entire place. I do. And all the staff know who you are. That must be gratifying. I studied my sister, trying to read whether her comment was genuine or another dig. It's not about gratification, Diane. It's about building something meaningful. But surely you enjoy the power, the control, having people jump when you say jump. That's not how I manage, and it's not why I do this work. She gave a small laugh. Come on, Ellie. We're sisters. You can admit it. You must love showing up here and surprising us all with your secret empire, proving us wrong about you. Is that what you think this is about? Some kind of revenge scenario I've been plotting. Isn't it? The dramatic reveal, taking the master suite, all the generous complimentary offerings. She made air quotes around the word complimentary. I shook my head, disappointment washing over me. You really don't get it. I'm offering these things because you're my family and I want to share my success with you, not to show off or exact revenge. Then why not tell us years ago? Why the big secret? It wasn't a secret, Diane. It just wasn't something I broadcast because every time I shared any achievement, it was either dismissed or someone changed the subject to their own life. That's not true. When I made director at Hollington Consulting, I called to tell you. You interrupted me to talk about your kitchen renovation for 45 minutes. When I mentioned I was working on acquiring a major property, you said that's nice, and immediately asked if I was dating anyone. After a while, I stopped trying. She had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. I didn't realize you felt that way. How would you feel if every accomplishment was treated as less important than someone else's everyday news? Diane was quiet for a moment. I guess I never thought about it like that. And the room situation for this trip? Was that really an oversight? She looked away. I thought you might not come if it was complicated. You've skipped so many family events. Because I often felt unwelcome or irrelevant when I did attend. That's not fair. We always include you. Like you included me in the room arrangements for this trip? She flushed. I made a mistake. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was the closest I was likely to get from Diane. Look, I said, I didn't come here to fight with you. I genuinely want Mom's birthday to be special. Can we put this aside, at least for the duration of the trip? She nodded stiffly. Fine. For Mom's sake. Thank you. Enjoy the spa. After everyone had departed for their activities, I retreated to the villa's private office to handle some work matters. Around lunchtime, I received a text from my nephew Jake, Janie's oldest. And Eliada's awesome. You should come join. I smiled at the unexpected outreach. The teenagers had barely acknowledged my existence at breakfast. But apparently, being the aunt who owned the cool resort elevated my status. I finished my urgent work and had Xavier arrange for a launch to take me out to the yacht. The day had turned glorious, cloudless blue sky, gentle breeze, emerald water stretching to the horizon. As I approached the sleek vessel anchored in a secluded cove, I could see my nieces and nephews jumping off the stern platform and snorkeling around the coral reef below. Jake spotted me first. "Aunt Ellie's here," he shouted, waving enthusiastically. The unexpected warm welcome caught me off guard. Maddie, Janie's middle child, swam over to the boarding ladder. "This boat is insane. Do you like? Use it whenever you want." "Sometimes," I admitted, stepping aboard, "when I need to entertain clients or just want some time on the water." "So cool," she breathed wide-eyed. For the next 2 hours, I found myself genuinely enjoying my nieces' and nephews' company. They peppered me with questions about the resort, my work, my travels, showing more interest in my life than their parents had in years. I taught them how to spot sea turtles, showed them a hidden cave along the coastline, and laughed more than I had in months. When we returned to the resort, the kids were still buzzing with excitement. "Mom, Aunt Ellie took us to this amazing sea cave," Maddie told Janie as we disembarked, "and she knows all about the coral reefs and stuff." Janie looked surprised. "I didn't realize you were such an expert on marine life, Ellie." "I'm not really, but when you own a coastal resort, you learn about the local ecosystem. It's part of our conservation and guest education programs." "Well, thanks for looking after them. They clearly had a blast." As we walked back toward the presidential villa, Janie fell into step beside me. "So, not to pry, but how successful is this place? I mean, it looks amazing, but appearances can be deceiving in the hotel business, right?" "The resort group is doing very well. We have 5 properties now, with 2 more in development." She whistled softly. "Wow. And here Mom and Dad were always worried about you having stable employment." I laughed. I think they still are, deep down. The entrepreneurial path doesn't compute for them. "For what it's worth," Janie said hesitantly, "I always thought you'd do something extraordinary. You were always the smartest one of us." "Thank you, Janie. That means a lot. And I'm sorry if I didn't pay enough attention to your career. It's just with the kids and everything. I understand. Life gets busy. Still, we should have made more effort. Especially Diane, though don't tell her I said that." We shared a conspiratorial smile, a rare moment of sisterly connection. Back at the villa, the golf and spa groups had also returned. My mother looked radiant after her treatments, and even my father seemed more relaxed. Only Marcus maintained his slightly sullen demeanor, perhaps because my father had mentioned beating him soundly on the back 9. As everyone relaxed before dinner, I consulted with the staff about final arrangements for the evening. The Sea Glass restaurant had been closed to other guests, transformed with flowers, candles, and subtle decorations in my mother's favorite colors. The executive chef had created a special 7-course menu featuring dishes for my parents' travels over the years. At 7, we gathered in the villa's great room for pre-dinner cocktails. My mother looked elegant in a midnight blue dress that I recognized as new, probably purchased specially for this trip. My father had donned a jacket and tie, and everyone else had dressed for the occasion as well. "Before we head to dinner," I said, raising my glass, "I'd like to propose a toast. To Mom, whose wisdom, grace, and love have guided this family through good times and bad. Happy 70th birthday." To Mom, everyone echoed, glasses raised. My mother looked touched. "Thank you all for being here. Having my children and grandchildren together is the best gift I could ask for." As we made our way to the restaurant, walking along torchlit paths through the lush gardens, my father fell into step beside me. "You've done well with this place, Ellie. Very impressive operation." Coming from him, this was high praise indeed. "Thank you, Dad. I wish you'd told us about it sooner." I sighed. We've been over this. I know. We didn't ask the right questions, didn't show enough interest. But you could have made more effort too, you know. Family is a two-way street. You're right, I conceded. I could have tried harder. But after years of feeling peripheral to the family, it became easier to keep my distance. He was quiet for a moment. I never meant to make you feel that way. Perhaps I didn't understand your world as well as I understood Ben's or the girls'. Medicine, teaching, those were familiar territories. Your business ventures seemed more abstract. They're not abstract to me, Dad. They're my life's work. I see that now. He gestured at the beautiful resort around us. Very clearly. It wasn't quite an apology, but for my father it was significant acknowledgement. The Sea Glass restaurant stood at the edge of a cliff, its glass walls providing uninterrupted views of the ocean and the setting sun. As we entered, my mother gasped. The staff had outdone themselves, each table setting perfect, soft music playing, the lighting creating a warm, intimate atmosphere despite the restaurant size. Ellie, this is magnificent, my mother said, eyes shining. Only the best for you, Mom. The dinner that followed was everything I'd hoped for. Exquisite food, flowing conversation, even genuine laughter. The chef had recreated dishes from my parents' trips to Spain, Italy, France, and Japan, each one triggering stories and memories. With each course, my mother grew more animated, recounting adventures and misadventures from their travels. Even Diane seemed to relax, sharing anecdotes about family vacations past. Ben proposed heartfelt toasts. The teenagers, initially bored by the adult conversation, became engaged when dessert arrived. A spectacular creation resembling a blown glass sculpture made entirely of sugar and chocolate, inside which was my mother's favorite hazelnut soufflé. As coffee was served, I signaled to Xavier, who appeared with a slim wrapped package. Mom, this is from me. Happy birthday. She unwrapped it carefully to reveal a leather-bound photo album. Opening it, she found professionally restored photographs spanning decades. Her parents' wedding, her childhood, her own wedding to my father, and images of all of us throughout the years. The final pages showed recent photographs of the grandchildren, and at the very end, a family portrait taken just that morning by the resort photographer without any of us realizing it. All of us together on the villa's terrace, the ocean behind us. Oh, Ellie. Tears welled in my mother's eyes. This is the most thoughtful gift. There's more, I said softly. Turn to the last page. She did, finding an envelope tucked into the back cover. Inside was a certificate for a Mediterranean cruise. A 2-week voyage visiting all the coastal towns she and my father had always talked about but never seen. You always said you wanted to see the Greek islands, I explained. The cruise departs 3 months from now. First class, all the way, and I've arranged for a suite with a private veranda. This is too much, my father protested, though I could see he was touched. It's not. It's what I want to do for you both. Thank you, sweetheart, my mother said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Not just for the gifts, but for all of this. For sharing your success with us, even when we didn't make it easy for you. The sincerity in her voice brought a lump to my throat. You're welcome, Mom. The evening continued pleasantly, with dessert, digestives, and more conversation. As it grew late, we made our way back to the villa, my mother holding my arm. I'm so proud of you, Ellie, she said quietly. I've always been proud of you, even when I didn't fully understand what you were doing. I hope you know that. I do now, Mom. Back at the villa, everyone drifted toward their rooms, pleasantly exhausted from the day's activities and the abundant meal. As I prepared for bed, there was a knock at my door. To my surprise, it was Diane. Can we talk for a minute? She asked. I invited her in, curious and slightly wary. She paced for a moment before speaking. I need to apologize properly for the room situation and, well, for a lot of things over the years. Okay. I didn't book you a room deliberately, she admitted. I guess I was jealous. You always seemed so independent, so self-sufficient. When you missed family events, you had these important-sounding excuses about work. Part of me didn't believe they were real. They were. I see that now, very clearly. She gestured around the luxurious suite. I thought you were making yourself seem more important than you were, which says more about my insecurities than anything about you. What were you insecure about? You have the picture-perfect life, husband, kids, beautiful home. She laughed, but there was little humor in it. Perfect? Marcus's business has been struggling for years. We've remortgaged the house twice. The kids' college funds are practically empty. I've been picking up substitute teaching gigs to help with bills, which is not what I thought I'd be doing at 46. I was stunned. I had no idea. Of course not. We all present what we want others to see. She sat heavily on the edge of a chair. When you walked in here and turned out to be some secret success story, it highlighted everything I've been trying to hide. I'm sorry. I never meant to make you feel bad. That's just it, you didn't. I did that to myself. She met my eyes directly. I've been a terrible sister to you, Ellie. Dismissive, competitive in the worst way. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, but I am truly sorry. The honesty in her voice was unmistakable. Thank you, Diane. That means a lot. So where do we go from here? Maybe we start over? Try to get to know each other as the adults we've become, not the roles we're used to playing. She nodded slowly. I'd like that. Rising to leave, she added. And for what it's worth, this place is incredible. You should be really proud. After she left, I sat on my terrace, listening to the waves and reflecting on the unexpected turns this trip had taken. The revelations, the confrontations, the beginnings of what might be healing. None of it had gone as I'd anticipated. Over the next few days, something shifted in our family dynamic. It wasn't dramatic. Years of patterns don't change overnight, but it was noticeable. Ben asked detailed questions about my business strategy. My father sought my advice on some of his investments. Even Marcus thawed slightly, especially after I connected him with a business contact who might be able to help his struggling company. On our last evening together, we gathered on the villa's main terrace for a casual dinner. The atmosphere was relaxed, conversation flowing easily among family members who'd spent decades talking past each other but were finally beginning to listen. As the sun set in a spectacular display of orange and pink, my mother raised her glass. I want to thank all of you for making this birthday so special, particularly you, Ellie, for sharing this beautiful place with us. Hear, hear, Aunt Patricia chimed in, and my mother continued, I hope this is the beginning of a new chapter for our family, one where we see each other more clearly and appreciate each other more fully. I drink to that, Ben said. As glasses clinked around the table, I felt something I hadn't experienced with my family in years, a sense of belonging, not as the little sister to be overlooked, not as the career woman too busy for family, but as Eleanor Mitchell, complete and valued for exactly who I was. The next morning, as families packed and prepared for departures, I stood in the villa's foyer saying goodbyes. Hugs that had felt perfunctory days earlier now seemed genuine. Plans were made for future gatherings, my father suggesting Thanksgiving at their house, Janie proposing a cousin's weekend for the teenagers. You'll come for Thanksgiving, won't you? My mother asked, holding my hands in hers. I know it's months away and you're busy, but it would mean so much. I'll be there, I promised, and this time I meant it. As the last car pulled away, Xavier appeared at my side. Everything went well, Ms. Mitchell. I watched my family's vehicles disappear down the winding drive, feeling a complex mix of emotions, relief, hope, lingering traces of old hurt, but mostly a sense of peace. Better than expected, Xavier. Much better than expected. Will you be staying on property longer, or heading back to the corporate office? I considered the question, looking out at the perfect blue sky and the ocean beyond. I think I'll stay a few more days. I've earned some time to enjoy the fruits of my labor, don't you think? Most definitely, Ms. Mitchell. The presidential villa is yours for as long as you wish. I smiled, savoring the satisfaction of having not just a room at the table, but the key to the whole house. Perfect. And Xavier? Send up some champagne. I think a small celebration is in order. Right away. Anything else? No, I said, watching a sailboat on the distant horizon. I have everything I need.